Oh man. Look at these mountains. Woof. Air, water, fire, and earth. Today we're checking out the Neolithic Bending Legacies mod, which changes the Neolithic era trait and gives it a much more Avatar The Last Airbender theme. Shout out to the creator of the mod. Let's jump in and test these elements. And a kindly reminder to always tick the mod and apply it before you begin. Don't make the same mistakes I do. Alrighty. The race begins. A new world. Let's see what we can find. These nuts will provide us with half a person. I really need my discoveries. Instead of providing +1 food, +1 industry, and +1 science per population, this mod is a complete overhaul of that system. So, I need to find science. Looks like it's going to be quite a good turn because we can grab the food, separate out the dude. Dude can go find more food, and pillage. Ooh, lucky! A freshwater harvest. The best kind of harvest you can find. Basically the most food you can get in the game. Let's separate out that newly harvested unit and see if we can find some dang science! Haha! Yes, and we've also discovered Mount Everest. That is a wonder I don't often find. Huh. This is such an unusual start for me that I've completed my growth star and my hunter star even before I'm halfway. I'm just halfway into my science. Right, outpost relocated and hopefully a generous 3 science. You would. There we go. Knowledge star achieved. Essentially, we get to choose if we want our people to be airbenders, waterbenders, earthbenders, or fire. Let's really delve in and see what each one does, because I think that these look very on theme. If we choose the sky bison, the airbenders, 4 science on mountain, very Joe, and some faith, and some influence too. And 2 stability per pop on all cities, plus we move around a little bit faster. Cool. Waterbending, what do we get? Food and industry on rivers, on lakes, on coastal water, and we're really fast in the sea. That could be useful for early expansion. I can see that being quite handy. The badger moles, the earthbenders themselves, have 2 industry on mountain, stone rocky fields, and... ooh, interesting. And they receive vision, range, and detection on units, indeed feeling the earth, and 15 district fortification. Makes sense too. I love it. Very on theme. And finally, the dragons, the firebenders themselves. This one I imagine is probably harder to make on theme because, you know, there's water in the game, there's earth in the game. The airbending does coincide nicely with the mountains, but how do you do fire? +1 influence per pop, +2 science per researcher, +2 industry per worker, and some combat strength and, zone of control. Yeah. I love it. So I suppose my hot take, my ill-informed hot take, the influence, science, and industry is kind of what the firebenders did, right? Good, just a generally productive society. And then you have the combat strength, which makes sense for the aggressors, and I really love that zone of control distance on unit. That's a really neat change that most mods or this kind of thing hasn't really dealt with yet, right? A strong focus on yields, less of a focus on that kind of thing. Now I have to decide which one suits me. My inkling is initially they're all very balanced. I mean, the sky bison is quite a lot more specialized, but that specialization really pays. The moon is interesting, maybe the more generic one of the lot. Badger moles, I think, very strong. And then the dragons, super unique and interesting. I think I'd quite like to be an airbender. I'm gonna go for the mountain vibes because we found Mount Everest. I mean, it's a match made in heaven. But we'll probably also give a couple of different ones a go in this video, just to showcase a little bit more of what the mod has to offer. But anyway, let's jump in, Sky Bison. And with that in mind, naturally this is like the best territory. I didn't set this up, I promise. That is a very good territory. We'll take that. And there are some more mountains in here, so I might move my way into this one. Otherwise, it's not a particularly nice looking one. And I think I almost need to do an emergency outpost situation here again. Let's sneak here and grab that. The rest of the tile yields in this territory are garbage. I mean, literally non-existent. Look. Not a lot. But then look at this. That is Airbender Central. That's what I'm talking about. Let's move toward those. And in fact, this unit here is absolutely poised to do so, while maybe fighting a deer along the way. And with a new army appearing nearby, we can probably even scare you off. Great success. Now, I probably should move through to the next era. You don't have to stay in the Neolithic era, of course, to make the most of this mod. And there's really not a lot of point in me hanging around any longer, so I'm going to choose a culture. And seeing as I've gone the Airbenders, you know it's got to be. It's got to be Joe. Why? Because of that mountain love. +5 science per adjacent mountain. We're going to stack the Airbenders with my love of Joe and hopefully have some fantastic mountain ranges to take advantage of. Yes, I am min-maxing here. Sorry. So the yields aren't showing up on these mountains, but they are on these ones. And I'm not sure if that's a graphical glitch or perhaps an issue that needs to be ironed. We'll figure out when we establish the city. But regardless, establishing one here is very good because I know that these mountains are doing it. The game's like, come here to this river, it's so good. I'm like, no, I want the mountains. Ooh, here's an interesting interaction. I'm going to lose the 2 faith and influence from there, but I'm going to gain an incredible amount of science. Maybe I might build it as a tester. I might build it down here, relatively away from mountains, because it looks like it's going to mess with their other yields. So I'm just going to slap that down there and see how that goes. Oh man, look at these mountains. Woof. Oh, I love it. That is fantastic. How good. Mountains don't often receive a lot of love except for the odd culture, so it's very cool to see the Airbenders respect them in practice. And of course, you keep that for the rest of the game because it's been modded as the Neolithic era legacy trait, rather than these things being modded in as individual cultures. Very clever idea. Let's now jump back a few turns and see what this would look like if we perhaps weren't Airbenders. Alrighty, time number 2. And this time, I think I'll try the... I've always kind of been a bit of a waterbender at heart, and I'd like to see how powerful the waterbender is, because it reminds me a lot of some cultures that we like to play, right? Imagine a waterbender into Harappa start, for example. Could be just as good, if not better, than the Sky Bison into Joe start. There are lots of options and opportunities here. I consider myself a bit of a waterbender, so let's do it. Which probably means that I want to eye up a territory more like this one, rather than my Joe Mountain start, but I did make sure that I just grabbed these 2 territories again for, you know, some relative consistency. But, of course, I'm a waterbender. I'm not as interested in these mountains. I'm really more interested in fruitful places like this. So, in order to really showcase this properly, let me head down this way. I wonder if we could... The Harappan start would work really well, but also maybe the Egyptian one. We could be waterbending Egyptians. Let's give it a go. Now, what kind of yields am I looking at with +1 food and industry on these rivers? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Woof. 36 total yields. Might just make you my first city. Although, actually, this one may not be much... no, this is kind of garbage. This was fantastic with Joe. It's not terrible now, but the snowy fields, the mountains can't really make up for it anymore. Alright, I have enough influence to attach. I'm gonna do it just straight away. Watch here as the city of Memphis, formerly the airbending capital, becomes Mega City 1. Very cool, very on theme, and very powerful early industrial districts. Love it. And of course, the thing that I can't demonstrate at this early stage, but will be more beneficial moving forward, and those who saw my recent naval game livestream will know this, the extra movement speed that we get in water, +3, is massive as we move through the game. Absolutely massive. Well, just a couple of turns later, and I think I really like the waterbenders. Again, they're probably the easiest one to understand, and maybe that makes them the best. But also, I don't know, those mountains before us, the airbenders, were very good. And realistically, probably all 4 of these legacies are good. My inkling from testing them is that they're all pretty well balanced, and within the broader context of Humankind, they suit the game very well. Shout out to you for creating such a fantastic mod. I know you're a semi-regular viewer of the channel. I appreciate it a lot. But more importantly, I think overall, this was a very creative mod, and my 2 cents worth, a very enjoyable one. I'd highly recommend you check it out. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.